Hi, the reflection for today comes from Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 to 10. The reading itself says, "A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. His roots, a branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of might, the Spirit of the knowledge and fear of the Lord, and he will delight in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes, or decide by what he hears with his ears. But with righteousness he will judge the needy. With justice he will give decisions for the poor and the earth. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. With the breath of his lips he will slay the wicked. Righteousness will be his belt, and faithfulness the sash around his waist. The wolf will live with the lamb. The leopard will lie down with the goat. The calf and the lion and the yearling together, and a little child will lead them. The cow will feed with the bear. Their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The infant will play near the cobra's den, and the young child will put its hand into the viper's nest. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain. For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. In that day, the root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples. The nations will rally to him, and his resting place will be glorious." I don't know about you, but that passage from Isaiah really gets me thinking. If you've seen any of the YouTubes or pictures of the bird that rides on the back of a cat, or a cat that snuggles up next to a dog, perhaps you some experience of these types of things with your own personal pets. What about a picture of a tiger nursing a bunch of piglets? Or stories about a lioness adopting and raising young antelopes? We find these kinds of things fascinating, don't we? When we first look at the pictures, our thoughts are immediately centered on the danger. Somehow, these two groups of animals together are totally wrong. One of them's a predator, so the other can be eaten at any given time. The dynamics don't seem to add up. Yet on the other side, our heart kicks our brain into gear and we say we can see the love that these two diametrically set animals have for each other, where one will protect the other, and our fascination turns into awe. Because what we see is something really profound. It's a time of love, that moment, because without prejudice, they respect each other, and animals can love each other. And it signifies hope in action, that if animals can do that thing, then we can do it too, can't we? Because often in our broken world, we can see glimpses of the way we're supposed to be. And if animals can squash their predator instinct, then there must be a chance for us humans too. The chance that there's something beyond what we normally see in nature. Likewise, the picture that Isaiah paints in our wonderful passage is so remarkable that it just goes against everything we know. A wolf that sleeps next to a lamb, and a leopard with a goat, a cow with a bear, and a lion eating straw like an ox. The passage stands in direct contrast to the terror and brutality that goes on through the world. And we know a lot about fear and we know about brutality. But I guess our problem is it's so easy to stereotype animals and people. We latch on to one characteristic and probably overemphasize it because one size does not fit all. As children, we learn through books, parents, and situations that foxes are cunning, lions and tigers are fierce. That sticks in our mind. The same thing as humans would classify probably nations as noisy, arrogant, perhaps pompous. If someone was to say about the third world, we might think about mud huts, shanty towns, drought and disease, and our minds will be focused on the pictures we have on TVs and posters. We do it for individuals as well. We say someone we work with is uncooperative and difficult, and we close our minds and look no further. In fact, we believe in our own prejudices and never try to change anything. In business, we've got something called unconscious bias, where we have to see through this, particularly in a recruitment process, that there are certain situations that you can't see people as, that you can't take a detrimental view. I don't know how many people have seen people on Zoom or other visions. It's a case of the people sitting there and they've got a bookcase behind them. And you automatically think, oh, they read a lot, but it might just be a background that they add. They've no intention or can't read those many books. So our prejudice is inherent and it clouds our vision. On TV, on radio, Google, or newspapers, all we seem to see nowadays is the COVID situation and the vaccine. We draw more and more to the haves and have-nots, the countries to individuals. Those countries with money will be upfront in getting access to the vaccines, and those with no money wait for the generosity of others. But that's the way society is. We see the same with the homeless, those needing food banks, those that are looking from help from friends and families as their jobs are no longer or cut from what they used to be. And all this can cause us to really wonder, is there any hope? According to the prophet Isaiah, there is, because hope begins with a shoot. Now, what does he mean? A shoot will come from the stump of Jesse. From his roots, a branch will bear fruit. Jesse, of course, is the name of King David. And Isaiah is saying that out of David's line will come a king. Now, if we're not too far from Christmas, so if those remembering the Christmas story, that would seem true, that the Messiah, Jesus, was born and he will be the branch that bears fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest upon him. Righteousness will be his belt, and faithfulness the sash around his waist. Despite what our world feels, God didn't create this world to be ruled by bloodshed or even survival of the fittest. It's not supposed to be a cruel world, and it shouldn't be. In fact, in John 1, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, after spending one day with Jesus, went up to his brother saying, "We found the Messiah." And this is the strength of the Jewish hope, that the Messiah was there for them. It seemed that King David's house had fallen through the Old Testament, but now, wait, all was not lost. And fascinating that God made that change, and he changed everything. Hope through Jesus started. It started in a very unexpected place, and it grew and developed from there. Now, when we started lockdowns last year, teams of volunteers sprung up into help with shopping, picking up prescriptions, delivering food to the vulnerable. People worked hard in food banks, those in churches or council-run places, and the needs spiraled to new heights. Nurses and doctors doing all they can and more. And this gives us hope that we can work together and love each other for the better. Jesus said the most important things are to love God and to love your neighbour. He calls on all his followers to learn the way of forgiveness and love. He saw very clearly that violence led to violence and vengeance led to vengeance, because that's the way we are. And that if we want peace, if we want to change something, then it only takes one person to take that risk to refuse to strike back. As the song goes, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Jesus was always crossing boundaries. The Samaritans, the Romans, the lepers, the sick, and just loving people in our eyes he wasn't supposed to, and turning enemies into friends by treating them as human beings made in the image of God. And as we think about applying this to our own lives, perhaps we should ask how God is calling us to work for reconciliation in the world today. What do I need to change? What boundaries is God inviting me to cross? Is it with someone I don't get on with? Is it a group of people that I've stereotyped because I can't or don't want to see their view? Is it another Christian group whose interpretations of the Bible I disagree with? Today, let's ask God to guide us on this and ask him to show us what will be the first step so that Isaiah's prophecy may help us to shape a new world in which natural enemies are reconciled at the foot of the cross. And as a final thought, it's love that motivates us to do something outside of the ordinary. And whenever we do this, our faith grows, as does our love. Amen.